Tanse itsarak minandute mak naskumana nespane tagiwapa nuya huma igiminagaw ininiga minus tse mga ganasi man kakinig tansero tak tastoy gawi Spanish ko taganwapa ta. Elders, members of Norway House Cree Nation, citizens of Norway House, family and friends, and to all those who are watching this video, on behalf of both Council and myself, I am pleased to share a glimpse of the history of Norway House in the following film that was taken of our community by INAC officials 31 years ago. The footage was shot on March 30th, 1984, a practice that INAC was doing with other communities at the time. And I would like to take a moment now to thank INAC for preserving and sharing this record of our community. Sometimes it is useful to take a moment and look back to remind us of how far our community has developed and grown. It's good to have a context of that time. Let me give you a snapshot of the world in 1984. On February 29th of that year, Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau announces his retirement after his evening walk in the snow, when his son, Justin, our new Prime Minister, was 12, going on 13. Later in the year, on September 4th, Brian Mulroney was elected Prime Minister and won the largest majority in Canadian history. The President of the United States at the time was Ronald Reagan. Ed Schreier was Premier of Manitoba. Our Member of Parliament at the time was Rod Murphy, and our MLA was Harry Harapiak. Sharon Carstairs was the first woman to lead a political party in Canada. In that year, Marc Garneau, now a Liberal MP, was the first Canadian in space. The Russians boycotted the Olympics in LA, and the Oilers won the Stanley Cup on May 19th of that year, beating the Islanders. The Bombers won the Grey Cup. Imagine that. Night Court premiered on TV. Clara Peller first asked, "Where's the beef?" in Wendy's ads. Apple unveils its revolutionary Macintosh personal computer. Michael Jackson is burned during filming for a Pepsi commercial. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Bruce Springsteen releases his album, Born in the USA. The first broadcast of Miami Vice was aired. Cosby Show premieres on TV. McDonald's made its 50 billionth hamburger. These days, I think they stopped counting. And here at home, our chief, the late Walter Abitagan, had just taken office along with his 12 council members. In Rossville, elected were the late Kenneth Albert, the late Charlie Balfour, the late Sandy Cromarty, the late Alec Crate, the late Hubert Falster, the late Harvey York. And for Jack River, elected were the late Betsy Abitagan, the late Stanley Budd, the late Andrew Evans, my uncle, the late Ralph Hart, the late Joe Papanicus, and Ted Papanicus. Across First Nations Canada, there was no such thing as the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, nor the Assembly of First Nations. In fact, the term First Nations didn't exist. There was the National Indian Brotherhood, and we were commonly referred to as Indians, obviously now considered inappropriate. We are now Cree, Dene, Ojibwe, Dakota, and so on. We are now First Nations, not reserves. And across the land, our people have been elected to and have been taking their seats in Ottawa. There are now 10 elected members of Parliament that have Indigenous background. Let's take a look at Norway House in 1984. To me, it is amazing how far we've come. We now have paved, not mud roads built in 1998, a road bridge to Mission Island. In '94, there was nothing except a walking bridge, high-speed internet service, a daycare center, the new housing neighborhoods, a new Tim Hortons located in the mall, the new C-store with a second Tim Hortons, the York Boat Inn, the entertainment center, the HBU school designed by a world and a Canadian renowned architect, the multiplex where our community can support the hockey system, a fitness center, and countless community events. It was built in 1995. In the same year, we opened the mall that provided new inside space for better shopping, a better post office, the new Royal Bank branch, an insurance broker, and a specialty shop, and now space enough for our brand new pharmacy. A new community administration building, the chief and council chambers, a local funeral home, 2 new buses for medical transportation and other uses, the bus and funeral home equipment garage, water and waste water lines, meeting running water for everyone, a new Salisbury House restaurant, the new Machivanuan building, a beautiful York Boat Day site along the lake with the Fisherman's Co-op stage, the bleachers, shades, lakeshore, outdoor kitchen, new docks, all starting with the pavilion that we built in 1994. We have come a long way, and it shows me and encourages me that if we have a vision, this community is capable of making real, positive, and tremendous change. Thank you for taking the time to watch us.